Welcome, one and all, back to the Hurdle Podcast. You got the trio here. You got me, you got Bailey, you got Avery. I was out last podcast. If you couldn't tell, the voice sounds like shit, but we're here. And we're gonna kind of recap Game 7. We're gonna preview the finals, and then we're gonna go into some coaching hirings that have happened in the past 2 days. But I'll give you the floor, Bailey. What the hell happened to your Celtics? Is it a Game 7 thing?
No, it's not a game seven thing. Because they waxed Philly in game seven, so it's clearly not just a game seven thing.
I'm just giving
Um,
shit.
I know. I'm all here for it. I know both of you picked Miami in seven, so for the first half of this podcast, I'm prepared to take a beating, um, a verbal beating here. But I don't really know what to say. Like, I think a lot of it was the 3-point shooting. They just couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. There were stretches where, like, even really early in the game, it was like 11-4, I believe was the score. Miami couldn't score to start the game, and then Boston missed like their next 12 shots, and then Miami was up six, and then that six got pushed to 12, got pushed to 16, and then the game was basically out of reach until Derek White started doing something in the third quarter, and Derek White was the only one that showed up to play. Um, Tatum's kind of a scratch off, I think, in this scenario, just because he got hurt on, like, I got Tommy flashbacks from the FCS championship game 2 years ago. Like, so bad.
Oh
The
yeah.
Tommy play running through my head. Oh my God. Um, yeah, that was brutal. And then he's kind of out there, but I think he only took 13 shots in the game. So he's not like incredibly productive offensively. And you could tell he was limping. He was hurt every time he was driving to the bucket and landing on the ankle. There was some look across his face, and he even said it after he was a shell. And I think that that's a lot of that takes the wind right out of your sails really early in the game on the first possession, literally 20 seconds in. But then you got to have Jaylen Brown step up, and Jaylen Brown arguably played the worst game of his career. So um, sucks when he can't dribble. Jaylen Brown can't dribble left, can't dribble right. It's two dribbles, pull up mid range, two dribbles to the hole, or it's a three. And he couldn't shoot the three either. I'm pretty sure he was 16% in this series from three. And then Boston, between the second half of game six and the first half of game seven, was like 8 for 50 from three. So when Spoelstra goes zone, the way you beat the zone is you shoot from the outside. That's how you win. And Horford wasn't aggressive from the high post at all. You couldn't get Tatum any high post looks because Bam would just step up, and he had the bum ankle. So it was a struggle to watch for me personally. Just not great shot selection. Wasn't really aggressive. Derek White was the only one really doing much of anything on offense. And yeah, Miami deserved to win the series after being up 3-0. So
Bailey, where do you see
yeah.
Boston going from here? What would you like to see from them in the offseason? Because it's going to be a big one for them this offseason.
Do you have any thoughts on that? I'd actually kind of like to hear your opinion first, if you have any thoughts on that.
I think you got to try and run it back. I think Jaylen Brown's still young. He's got a lot of room to improve. And this is the best squad we've seen from Boston yet. I think you try and keep the pieces together. Try and fix. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of contracts expiring soon, and with the new CBA rules. But I think you try and run it back. Jaylen Brown, I think you got to keep him. Everyone's talking about Jaylen Brown leaving or Jaylen Brown being traded. I think I saw a jersey swap of Dame and Jaylen Brown like 20 minutes after the game was over from Boston fans. But I think you just got to try and run it back with the squad.
Like, I've always been on the Jaylen Brown train. I think he's a great player. He's a fantastic regular season player.
He fits Boston.
He fits Boston really well. He does everything that Tatum can do, really, except for the low post game. Isn't as dynamic. He's not as dynamic of a playmaker, but I totally agree. I think you have to keep Brown. You got to keep Tatum. I mean, if you're gonna trade Brown, it's got to be for a guy like Lillard, where it's a dominant guard. I feel like Lillard and Tatum could play really, really well together. Um, but I think that's a long shot in hell for that to happen. So, because Boston would have to move off so much capital, and Dame's making $60 million a year coming up here in the next couple of years. And when you have then you'd be paying Lillard and Tatum 120 million out of your 190 a year, like you said, Avery, with that new CBA. So it's just really, um, it's not going to happen. Simple as that. If anything is going to happen with Jaylen Brown, it's going to be the contract extension, or it is going to be, if it is to Portland, it's going to be for the number 3 pick. And Portland builds a team there around Lillard and Brown. I could see something happening there, and Portland giving back like Anthony Simons 3, and then the Celtics draft Brandon Miller or something like that. But yeah, I think you have to run it back with the same group. I feel like last year, like you said, this is the best team. Like regular season, yes, we won 57 games, but I feel like last year's team, roster-wise, wasn't as good. I feel like they were definitely more intense defensively, though.
Yeah, and people often forget that it's now been 4 years in a row that Boston's made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not like they've underachieved.
Mm-hmm. But like we said, like the excuses for those earlier Boston teams, though, with like Tatum in 18, and then 20 again, right? Is like Tatum's 21, 22. He's going to blossom eventually. I do think Tatum has one more level to his game. I feel like there's some low post work, and like we've talked about with the mid-range stuff a ton. Like in the playoffs, you got to get mid-range shots. That's how you create for an offense. That's what Jaylen Brown is really good at doing, that Tatum is lacking somewhat in that scenario. He's just a really bad percentage mid-range shooter, but the low post especially. So you watch any of the tape, anytime Tatum was in the post, it was an instant double team. And you can just, Boston has plenty of shooters. They just couldn't shoot. So, yeah, it was just a tough break in game 7, not being able to shoot at the normal clip that you normally do at that 40%. Because all the games they won, they made like 15 threes. And I think they made like 6 or 7. So sometimes they fall, sometimes they don't. It's a make or miss league, things like that. But I agree, you got to run it back.
Do you think
Same
there's
thing with
any
Missoula
piece?
too.
Do you think there's any piece they add? Just because,
Add.
like for me, I look at this and I go, I feel like Miami's not going anywhere. Miami's solid every year. The Bucks had an off year. So I don't think Giannis is letting that happen again. So it's like, yeah, you can run it back and all that, but at some point, I think there has to be that third piece. And I'm not saying they don't have that. Like Derek White's played great down the stretch, but it's like I feel like they're missing something, and I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I feel like they're missing what they were last year. I think it was just a coaching thing. Like Udoka preached defense. He got on people's ass for not playing any defense. And you kind of look at it this year, everyone's defensive numbers kind of regressed. Like Marcus Smart wasn't the defensive player of the year this year. Jaylen Brown took a step back defensively, as did Tatum, even though all their offensive production went up with Missoula's emphasis on shooting the 3 a bunch. They were shooting like 42 times a game. So in the playoffs at least, the 3 ball. So their offensive numbers went up, but there was no defensive integrity there. And I feel like they have the right players to do that. Like you have Rob Williams, you have veteran leadership with Horford. I feel like they have all the right intangibles. If anything, I don't think there's a piece on the court that they can fix. It's going out and getting a playoff experienced assistant coach to help Missoula out. Going out and getting like Dwayne Casey's on the market now. Going out and getting Dwayne Casey, who just got moved from Detroit because Monty Williams is there. We talked about him. Dwayne Casey
Didn't he get moved to a president role for the Pistons?
Did he?
I thought so.
I'm not sure, but maybe if Dwayne Casey's on the market, I think you guys are seeing what I'm getting at though. Like he went to like 4 straight Eastern Conference Finals with Toronto there, with the Lowry DeRozan teams. He has playoff experience. You got to get guys with playoff experience in the same room as a coach that's done it for 1 year. Was hardly an assistant coach in Boston for like 3 years. He's 33 years old. And he was learning this year on the fly. He didn't get his own staff. They hired him 3 days before training camp started. So he didn't get to choose any of the pieces around him to help him. And I feel like Brad Stevens would have helped him a little bit more with that and with that whole Udoka situation, but just the timing was off there. So I think it's just getting more experience on the bench to help. Like you look at the Warriors every year, they have 4 coaches that look at getting hired to other teams. They had Mike Brown, they had Kenny Atkinson, who coached for the Nets for a long time. They have Kerr still. There's like continuity. Same thing with
Luke
the Heat. They bring in,
Walton.
yeah, or Luke Walton, right? He looked to get hired. Like the Heat have Caron Butler on their sideline. He's a player with playoff experience. The Celtics don't have any of that. So I feel like bringing in some more veteran leadership, not only I don't think the team needs it. Like they have Horford, they have Smart. All these guys have been there. They've played in more playoff games than anyone else in the past 5 years. They know what to do. It's just sometimes when your team loses focus, you need that assistant coach on a sideline that can really lock you back in. I think with that, Boston would have won game 1 or game 2 of this series, and Boston would be playing in the finals right now.
I agree. And I think the worst decision for Boston would be making that blockbuster trade like we saw with Phoenix. Like, yeah, they got KD, but that same year, I mean, they weren't fluent enough. They didn't have enough time playing together that there was not going to be a ring for them that year. So I think Boston needs to run it back. They don't need to shake things up, especially in a blockbuster trade like that when you go out and get Damian Lillard, if you're trying to go and win a ring next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's reports that it's Udoka got hired by the Rockets, right?
Yep.
He's trying to poach Celtics staff, so maybe it's a win-win. Like Udoka gets his guys that were on the staff last year down to Houston, and then the Celtics can just rebuild that entire bench, coaching wise.
Yeah, and like Damon Stoudemire left for Georgia Tech halfway through the year. He was a key piece that Udoka liked to have around there. So it's just like the small things that people look over. It's like I don't think there's anything roster-wise that's bad with the team. I think the only thing that's up in the air is does Grant Williams come back next year? I really don't think the Celtics are thinking of letting Jaylen Brown go. He had one bad series. If you look at the rest of his playoff resume, it's good. It's very good. So, yeah, I think the only thing that's up in the air is Grant Williams coming back next year based on what price he's asking for. And if he asks for a reasonable amount, that $12 million range, not near the 20, the Celtics will be under the 190. And I think you just ride the same team into next year.
Yeah, you just can't let Caleb Martin shoot 60% from the field.
Yeah, that too. Like, it's not like Miami played bad. Miami played really well. Duncan Robinson stepped up to the plate. He actually became somewhat of a playmaker in this series. I believe he had like 9 assists in game 5. So even though they lost that game, still, Strus was there to be the most annoying player on the court every night. He became like my least favorite player of all time watching him play. When he trucked Tatum in game 4 at the end of the third quarter or something like that. Like Tatum's standing there to get an inbound and Strus just levels him. I wish I could like edit this video and just like show the clip to you guys, but you guys might have saw it on Instagram or whatever. And he levels him, and I didn't even notice it, but my dad pointed it out. And then after that, I noticed every little thing Max Strus does, and it made me hate him so much. I'm like, this guy's such a dirtbag.
The
Like,
Draymond mentality.
Hey,
Yeah,
the
his
Draymond Marcus
forearms
Smart
through
mentality.
screens. Yeah, but exactly like every great team has to have one of those guys. So I understand his role, but I hate Miami, so I hate that guy. So and I love Marcus Smart, and I don't like Draymond Green. So like it's a love-hate relationship. If you
It's
like,
a team by team basis.
yes, exactly. If he's on your team, you'll like him. If you're playing him, you hate him. And I'm sure the players are the exact same way with those guys. Like I'm sure Tatum loves playing with Smart, but would have to hate playing against Marcus Smart because it'd just be the most annoying thing on the planet, right? So, but yeah, like Caleb Martin was just like had an out of body experience for 7 straight games.
You think he should have won
Easter
MVP?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to get to. Yeah, I do.
I
Even though
agree.
Jimmy scored almost 30, like Caleb Martin hit. Every time the Celtics were making a run in Game 7, especially the Derek White run, where they got it to 7, I believe, Caleb Martin would just hit a 3 out of nowhere. He would just stripe a 3. And it's like, okay, now the lead's back to 10. They would get a stop, and then Miami would score a lift. And it's right back to 12, right where you just were 2 minutes ago. And it's like, we actually literally just made no progress in the last 3 minutes of the game, even though Derek White scored our last 9 points. So, yeah, he was phenomenal in Game 7. Miami just plays so weird. I hate it. And credit to Spoelstra, too. I feel like Boston was getting good looks out of the zone, just couldn't hit any of them. So credit to Spoelstra for sticking with the zone. And we'll see how it looks against Denver and what adjustments he makes, because I'm very interested to see Game 1 tomorrow night, or tonight, I guess, by the time this video is coming out. I'll say my opinions for when we talk about the finals with that. Credit
Exactly.
to Miami.
Well,
they came out
and
and won
we got the perfect transition. Let's talk the Heat. I mean, they almost were historic for the wrong reasons, and when it mattered most, Jimmy played his game and the role players stepped up. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me for the Heat in Game 7 was Jimmy made his plays and all the role players just fell right into place.
And I think what's not talked about enough is Bam stepping up this playoff series as well. Especially with his playmaking, it's been huge.
Yeah, and his ability to work the high post, and he took Horford off the dribble a couple times, which I was really impressed with. If he could get a mid-range shot, he'd be disgusting. But Spoelstra knows how to use him so well. He's when he's used correctly, he's a very unique offensive weapon. When he's used poorly, he's just like terrible offensively. But when you have a top 5 coach of all time, he's going to know how to put guys in their positions to make them winning players. Like we talk about all these undrafted guys, Spoelstra knows how to use them correctly to make them make winning plays for his team. That's all. He just turns something that isn't valued into something for his team that can win you a game in a series, and that's the genius of Eric Spoelstra. So, Bam was wonderful in Game 7, and you look at all the games Miami lost, 4, 5, and 6. Bam didn't play well in those games, so Bam's going to be another key piece in the finals coming up.
Is there any points we want to add to Miami before we jump to the finals? I think we can kind of just add on once we get there. Yeah.
Let's go to the finals.
All right, so the matchup is set. We get Denver versus Miami. A tale of two altitudes, because Miami's 6 feet above sea level, and Denver's the Mile High City. So, very interesting matchup. I think that'll play a decent role in the first 2 games, most likely, depending on when Miami got up there. But I think you look at this series. It's how do you? I'm gonna stop saying stop Jokic because it's just not doable. How do you contain and manage Jokic, especially when you look at this Miami team? Like, who is it? Just a Bam, you gotta try to stop him kind of series, or do you think Spoelstra is gonna throw something crazy at him?
You got to find a way to pressure him. That's been the biggest thing. He's just been reluctant to pressure. Every time he's made that right pass, you got to find a way to make him uncomfortable, throw it away a few times, and not let him get down in the low post by himself, or else he's going to score every time.
Totally agree. I think there's a couple ways Spoelstra is going to go about it. Jokic likes to take the ball up a ton, especially off of defensive rebounds by himself. So once he gets the ball, the team runs. And I think your pickup point, as in the first defender to guard the ball, has to be at the 3/4 court mark. You can't let Jokic walk the ball up himself and push the pace on your team. Miami likes to play a slow, grinded out game. And I feel like Miami might bite the bullet in these first 2 games. And they're going to have to really lock in defensively games 3 and 4. Because I think just the natural way Denver plays, they're going to find their transition buckets. It's just how much can you limit that? And then like you were saying, Avery, earlier, Bam is going to be so key in this series because he's quick enough defensively to not only pressure Jokic that three-quarter court ways, you can switch a guy like Caleb Martin onto him maybe, put fresh legs on. Miami has guys that can kind of do it that just aren't Jokic's size. So you just got to keep him out of the paint. You can't let him get to his spots. He loves working out of the high post. You have to push him off the high post and deny as hard as you can and force him to take tough leaning 14 mid-range fall away jump shots. And he'll hit a couple and you just have to live with that. That's the thing you have to live with Jokic. You got to limit the playmaking, force him to take tough shots, and you live with what he makes. It just can't be those super simple pick and roll with Murray, dump it down, 4-foot floater. He's making those all night, and he's going to go 16 for 20 and have a 40-point triple-double. That's how it's going to be if you let him do that. But if you don't let him get to those certain spots and just make him, like you said, Avery, as uncomfortable as he possibly can for the entirety of this 7-game series, I do think Miami has a shot in that fashion.
Yeah, you can live with Jokic, but you can't live with Murray. If you let Murray get his, it's 4 games to Denver.
Yep.
Exactly.
Totally
Like
agree.
you gotta limit it to Jokic is the only guy that can go off. Like you can't have a Jamal Murray 30-point game. You can't have Michael Porter shoot the lights out. Like it's one of those things where when you play someone as good as Jokic, you know they're gonna get theirs. It's like when you play LeBron. It's like when you play Luka. Like they're gonna get theirs. It's just limiting it and not letting any of these role players or second fiddles, whatever you want to call them, just kind of go off. And it's going to be interesting. I think Spoelstra will figure out something. I think there's matchups there. I think you'll maybe see a starting lineup change for Miami. Maybe you ride the hot hand and Caleb Martin's in the starting spot. Who knows? Like it's going to be interesting to see if they line up in.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And go ahead, Avery.
I think the key for Miami is let it live with Jokic. You got to stop Jamal Murray, and you got to outshoot the Nuggets. I mean, it seems like we've talked about this whole playoff series. When is Miami going to cool down? It looked like for a bit in that Boston series that they were going to. But you can't cool down for even one game in this series.
Yeah, I think Tyler Hero coming back is going to be big for Miami too. That's more scoring options. So then I know Gabe Vincent's still hurting from the ankle a little bit. I know he played games 6 and 7, but those are injuries that linger on throughout the playoffs that get overlooked. So Hero being back is 20 points that Miami desperately needs, and it's going to give Jimmy Butler easier looks. Like in games 4, 5, and 6 that Boston series, Jimmy was very hesitant because Boston was just throwing length at him and working double teams against him, and he was struggling with that a little bit. Now that you have Tyler Hero there, another perimeter shooter, you can't do that as much. And Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be doing it defensively, so Aaron Gordon's really going to have to step up to the plate there for Denver on defense. And of course, you're going to have the help side with Jokic and then rotations and all that jazz. But Denver has guys that can rotate on Jimmy. I just struggle to see how Miami keeps up with Denver's scoring ability because we said the zone. I think the zone's going to, if you play zone, I think Jokic shreds it to pieces. Jokic is going to catch the ball at the high post, and he could average like a 30, 20, and 20. He will flip and shred you from the high post. Because if Bam comes up, it's a drive or it's a backdoor cut. And if he doesn't come up, he's going to shoot that little 10-foot touch shot that he shoots all the time. So he's going to tear up the zone because he always makes the right play, whereas Boston didn't. Spoelstra has to go to Belichick mode, which is what is Denver's biggest strength? It's how they create open shots on every play. And how they set up defensively is going to be so massive. And like you brought up, Logan, the starting lineups is going to be really intriguing because how they match up is going to determine, and of course the strategy part, but partly how they match up is going to determine how high of a quality are Denver's shots, because that's Denver's strength. It is the ultimate strength in basketball. If you can get NBA players good looks every time down the floor, you're going to win. Unless you shoot 4 for 38, you're going to win. So I'm very interested to see if Spoelstra even touches the zone if they go to like a matchup zone. If he even thinks the word zone during the first 2 games, and they even just throw it out, maybe they do it for like 2 possessions in game 1. I could see that thing where they do it for like 2 minutes in game 1. If they get shredded with it, he never goes back to it until like game 5, right? And then they're tone breakers because NBA players are still used to seeing man to man, man to man, man to man. And Miami has run zone more than any team in the past 20 years. So those little 6-0 runs that you saw all throughout the Boston series where Miami would go zone for 3 minutes and they would get up 8-0, they would go on an 8-0, 10-0 run. I could see that, but just in Denver's favor if they play zone. So we'll see how Spoelstra tries to break up Denver's flow, tempo, pace, and just comfort offensively because right now they're in an unstoppable groove.
Well, all right. We've highlighted it. Now I want picks for the series, finals MVP, and I want a dark horse for finals MVP.
Dark horse. Jamal Murray.
Ooh.
Is your dark horse or your pick for finals MVP?
Dark horse.
Okay.
Of course, Jokic is the favorite for finals MVP.
And you're picking?
Yeah.
Who are you picking to win the series?
Oh, Denver in 6. Denver in 6.
In 6?
I think Miami will pull out too. I think Spoelstra's going to throw everything he has at Denver defensively. I think even if Caleb Martin shoots 60% from the field, I still see Denver winning.
Yep. Me?
Oh, yeah.
I also have Denver. I'm going to go in 5. I feel like whatever Spoelstra throws at him, whether it's a matchup zone or some funky type of man, he has all these exotic looks he can pull out, but Denver has the ultimate offensive counter weapon with Jokic as a big man who can pass. So, and they got too many shooters around him. I see Denver running, just mop, and you can call me a hater, you can call me salty. I don't care. I see Denver mopping the floor with Miami in game 1. Like,
Oh, yeah.
mopping the floor. I'm talking like 30.
Ooh.
30.
Like 128-98, that kind of thing. Because I think Miami's here to play the long game. So I think if this series goes 7, I would pick Miami in game 7. But I don't see the series going 7. I see Denver taking care of business early, like they did against LA. I also have Jokic as the finals MVP because if I'm picking Denver. And I don't really think Jamal Murray's a dark horse. Not to crap on your picker at all, Avery.
Actually, what am I talking about? Hold up. Michael,
Dark
the
horse?
possession NC Porter Jr.
I knew it.
Averaging, let's say, 1.2 assists this series.
That's high.
I know, right?
It really, I guess my dark horse would be if Miami wins this series, they would get the finals MVP. So, because Denver, I just really don't see anyone else but Jokic getting it unless it's Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray's not really a dark horse. So if I were to dark horse it, I'll go Caleb Martin.
Ooh, very nice. Well, I'm going to ride with Avery since we rode Miami last time. I think Denver in 6. The obvious pick is Jokic. I think the dark horse is Aaron Gordon.
Okay.
I was thinking him too. You're getting Andre Iguodala vibes with the defense.
I'm getting that they're going to have
damn.
so much focus on Jokic that Gordon's going to have a couple games that it's like, whoa, like Orlando kind of vibes. And it's like, I think Jamal Murray's a great one because I feel like the least obvious, not least obvious, but it's going to be Jokic if they win kind of deal. So I think anyone after that's a dark horse kind of a deal. But I just think there's going to be so much attention on him, and I don't know what defense they're going to throw at him, but Aaron Gordon could mess around and average 18 and 8 and probably win finals MVP.
Yeah. 2 more things before we leave the finals. totally. Aaron Gordon's a very interesting pick. I love what you're talking about there with just him in that spot in the low block spot, and Jokic can just feed him all day long. My only thing with that is he can't shoot worth a damn.
Well, exactly. All he's got to do is dunk.
Yeah. If he
Bunker
all he has to
position.
do is dunk, and he could get like 24 off dunks, and
That's
Denver's
also
winning the
12
series in
assists
4.
for Jokic.
And
Exactly.
Jokic makes 17 assists look easy, so that's definitely doable. Another thing on the Jamal Murray thing, like he's clearly the second most obvious guy if Denver wins. But he just shot 50, 40, 90 in the Western Conference Finals and averaged 31 a game, and he still didn't win Western Conference MVP. So it's hard to play much better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the last two things on the picks.
I think game one will tell a lot because, again, like I mentioned, I think altitude plays a huge factor this first game because Miami gets 2 days in between.
I'm just gonna be so tired.
But like I think the whole thing you were saying, Bailey, like Miami's better when they're hot and they're continuing to play basketball. Like Denver's had like a week off.
Mhm.
So Denver could come out slow. I just don't know. Again, I think Denver mops the floor with them, like you said, Bailey, but there's that thought of the rest becoming an issue for Denver.
Too much.
'Cause
Breaks
it's
rhythm.
been a week.
I totally understand. Yeah. It's
I'm
been
gonna
a
be
week since they've played.
I'm gonna be shocked if Miami comes out with a win in game one. I mean, I just looked at Dame's Instagram reel, and he was saying how every other game, first quarter, he's ready to go. He goes to Denver, first quarter, I'm gassed. I'm waiting for my first sub to get that second wind. I think with that altitude and just I'd be baffled if Miami pulls game one in Denver.
Interesting. I didn't see that. I don't know how much the altitude is going to play. Like, because I was listening to JJ Redick's pod. He said he doesn't really notice it. And he's like, he has a great podcast. You guys should go check out. It's called Old Man and the Three. But he was talking, he just did Michael Porter Jr. in a Duncan Robinson interview right before the finals today. And he was talking about like when he plays in Denver. I don't know if it was from a specific pod. I think it was from an earlier one. But when he plays in Denver, he didn't really feel it. And he's like constantly running around screens, catching and shooting threes. I just think it affects different players. Like it's all about your cardio. So my cardio sucks. So I would hate playing in Denver. Yeah, that's interesting with Dame. But like Dame's always in great shape. But also he's the primary ball handler. He's running around screens doing the same thing. And
Yeah.
then he's got to guard Jamal Murray on the other end. So
Yeah.
those might be long nights in Denver for Dame.
It could be long nights in Denver for the Heat for those first two games, but we will just have to see. We're going to wrap this pod up with a couple coach hirings. We'll start the first one that happened. Nick Nurse takes the Philly job over the Phoenix job. Kind of a surprise, but not really. I felt like he fit the mold of kind of what Philly's looking for. I believe it's a 5-year deal, so they're in on him. Do you guys like the fit, and do you think he maybe should have took the Phoenix job? I feel like that's the most coveted one right now.
Yeah, if I'm Nick Nurse, I'm wanting to take that Phoenix job. I know Embiid's in shambles right now. He's gonna have to play 42 minutes a game throughout the regular season. Probably break a few legs.
Could you
Walking
imagine
on crutches for playoffs.
the Sixers got Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau, and like Embiid, you gotta play 46 a night.
Embiid would
He would
quit.
be done by game 4.
He'd have no shins to walk on by the time you get to the playoffs. He'd be playing on his knees. It's only 6'7" now. Well, yeah, I think, out of the pool, I still think it's a good pickup for the Sixers. I think out of those guys, it's most definitely an upgrade over Doc. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a reason Doc gets so much hate. When you're like 10 in a billion in elimination games, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So, I think he's a great regular season guy. I don't know. Philly, I think Nurse is a decent start. I think they're in for a total rebrand once Harden gets the hell out of there. If he does. If Harden's back, I don't think this Nurse thing means jack, to be honest with you. Like, I would think of Philly the same way I would think of Philly with Doc if Harden is still there. Just because Daryl Morey constructs his teams to play certain ways, it's almost like he's the coach and the GM. Like, you look at all those Houston teams when Daryl Morey was there, Harden had to take 30 shots, and he had to get 28 free throw attempts a night. So, and that's just what their team was built on. Same thing this year. Embiid had to get the 15 free throws. Harden had to get the 10-plus free throws. Daryl Morey's just hunting for ref calls the whole time. And I think we talked about it when Philly got eliminated in Game 7. Not a sustainable way to play basketball. But I think if Harden is out of there and they try to use Embiid, I just don't know how flexible Embiid is as an offensive creator, if that makes sense. He's pretty stationary. He's not incredibly mobile. He's decent defensively mobile-wise, but you look at how he plays offensively, he's really stagnant on the high post, really stagnant on the low post. He likes to do the 6 Carmelo Anthony jabs before he shoots a shot. Carmelo retired, by the way, so congratulations to him. But yeah, I don't know how much Nurse is going to impact this offense. We'll see what he does defensively and switches with Embiid and things like that come playoff time. But if I'm Nurse, I should have been drooling over that Phoenix job. Because he's an offensive X and O's guy, and if you have Booker and Durant, you should be begging at the chance to coach those guys.
I think you got to try and keep Harden too. I think that's part of why I fired Doc. Harden and Doc had a bad rep. Like, who do you get if Harden's gone? Like you're
No one.
right now is your window. What?
You get no one. You have just Tyrese Maxey be the one and go out and get another 2 guard that can play some 3-and-D and run out a much better and smoother offense.
I mean, I guess you get Middleton maybe, but if you don't find anyone to replace Harden, do you see the Sixers beating a Milwaukee team next year, or Boston, or Miami?
I don't see the Sixers ever beating.
I don't see him do it with him.
Yeah, I don't see them doing it with Embiid at all, actually. I would be stunned if the Sixers make the finals in the next 3 years. And this is Embiid's prime we're talking about. Like, this is 33 and 12 a night, Joel Embiid. And I just think the way that he has to play basketball, you have to cater around him so much. It's almost impossible to build a perfect roster for some of these guys. Like, Jokic, it's easy. Jokic, it's so easy. A good ball handler and a bunch of 3-and-D guys and one dude that can really score. Done.
Yeah.
Simple. Embiid, it's almost impossible to build around. Harden is the same way. That's why the only reason they worked well together is because in a pick and roll, you got to use them both at the same time. So their usage value was both through the roof. Like, Westbrook was tough to build around in OKC because he couldn't shoot. So there's just certain players on certain rosters. It's like no one's going to be looking to build around Julius Randle this offseason, are they?
Yeah, I just think if Harden leaves, you have to find something to fill that void. You have a window right now, a 1 or 2 year window, and like I said in previous video, like, you might end up trading Embiid after this 1 or 2 years here. And I think in these 1 or 2 years, you got to go balls to the wall and just ride it out, see how far you can get, see how much you can get out of Embiid.
I saw a scenario the other day where it was, of course, it was about the Lakers, because Lakers fans, all they do is just dream of getting every star player in the league. But it was after LeBron retires, or LeBron goes to play with his son or whatever, shipping Anthony Davis for Joel Embiid.
That's it, straight up.
Like, just the concept of that happening. Like, the centerpiece of the trade being AD for Embiid. I don't think Philly would ever do that.
No.
Yeah.
And what is Philly gonna give up?
I would rather have
three firsts with that as well. Is that what Lakers fans want? If I'm a Lakers fan, I don't want AD for Embiid straight up.
No, I don't think LA would ever do that. I don't know why Lakers fans are wanting that. I think AD is better than Embiid. Like, Embiid won MVP this year. Come into a 7-game series in the playoffs. Give me Anthony Davis all day, every day.
Yes.
Agreed.
I was
Especially with
saying
the
that before the playoffs this year. I can handle AD scoring 12 points in a playoff game. I can't handle Embiid, not even knowing if he's healthy. Same thing with Anthony Davis, of course, but not even knowing if he's healthy. And him having to get to the free throw line 18 times and run a completely stagnant offense around him and not getting nearly as good of defense as Anthony Davis. So
I think we see a different AD once LeBron leaves too. If AD ends up being that number one option for the Lakers,
Pelicans AD coming back?
Indeed.
I don't know about
Please?
Pelicans AD.
Yes.
Please?
It feels like
I
if he
would love
jumps
to
that
see
high,
that.
he's not gonna get back up
I love
nowadays.
Anthony
But
Davis. I hate the Lakers, but I love Anthony Davis. Still,
I think
Danny Ainge pulled the trigger on that.
I think we'd see a more aggressive AD, but not one that's jumping out the gym, or else his knees are toast.
You know that trade, right, Logan?
The
80 to Boston
yeah.
trade.
Yeah, he was almost a Celtic.
Yeah, Brown, Smart, and 3 firsts for Anthony Davis.
Not bad.
We would have 3 titles. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have 3 titles. We would have won the bubble title. We would have beat Golden State last year, and I think we would have beat Miami this year with Anthony Davis.
That's completely valid.
Yeah.
Oh, what Danny Ainge can do to a team.
Knows how to blow up a team.
Look at Utah.
I know. They're thriving with all their picks right now. Knows how to blow it up, just can't put all the pieces back together. We'll see. Hopefully he does it in Utah. I'd be excited.
To only if they could get Victor Wembanyama. To only if. All right, the last coaching hire that happened, I believe it happened today, if I'm not mistaken, the day we're recording this. Let's see who. Oh, yes, the Pistons go out and get Monty Williams on a 6-year deal, for $72 million. So not a cheap one to bring in, but I don't know why we even talk about Detroit. I mean, they have Cade Cunningham, so it's like, okay, but like, what the hell is Monty Williams gonna do with that team? Like, that team is so bad. He had that Phoenix team, and they couldn't make it past the Lakers. Like,
That's a lot of money to go 30 and 52.
Indeed, my thoughts exactly.
At best. I mean, I'll get paid that much to go 30 and 52.
Dude, exactly. Dude, I'll take half that.
Just run Cade Cunningham, James Wiseman, PNR all day long.
Indeed, yes. That's all you have to do with that team.
Throw Jaden Ivey in the catch and shoot position, so we lose a couple more games. Maybe get a 5th overall pick with number 1 lottery odds.
Mess around and see what happens.
Is that what they're at? Is 5?
No, yeah,
Detroit?
4 or 5.
Detroit, yeah, because
they might be 5 actually.
Oh yeah, they're 5 this year. I was talking next year.
Oh, next year.
Next year too. Yeah,
next year they'll be 1.
It's San Antonio, Charlotte, Portland, Houston.
Yep.
Then Detroit. Jesus.
Tough.
Yeah. I don't really care about. I'm happy Monty has a job. I don't really think he deserved to be fired from the Phoenix job at all. Last year was rough. I think this year, with just the whole situation going on with Ishbia being the new owner, I think Ishbia kind of just wanted a clean slate. They brought in Durant to start that clean slate, and now they're just going to finish the process. We'll see what happens with Chris Paul and Ayton in free agency, or not. I guess Ayton's a free agent technically. I think
Ayton's going to go.
Yeah, restricted free agent. So maybe there's a sign-in trade there. That happens because I think Ayton's looking to get $34 million a year. If I'm a GM, I would avoid that contract like the plague. But maybe if you're a team like, I don't know, Chicago or something looking to replace Vucevic or something, maybe you bring in Ayton for 5 years, $175 million. I don't know.
And regret it.
Yeah, and then instantly regret every decision you've made in your life. But yeah, I mean, what is Monty gonna? He's there for like 2 reasons, and actually 1. It's develop draft picks. That's what he's there to do. Like, it kind of sucks. I really don't understand the 6 years of the deal either. Like, what is he going to do in those 6 years? There's no way Detroit becomes a contender. Like, I guess 6 years is kind of a long time, but like, what assets do they have outside of Cade Cunningham? They
They've
just
been waiting a
shipped
while
Sadiq
for
Bey.
Killian Hayes to blow up.
He's terrible.
Yeah,
He's terrible. I mean,
not
they have
very
Jaden
good.
Ivey, I guess, too, but he's an explosive little guard out of Purdue. But like that system's weird because you got like a 6'1" shooting guard because your point guard's 6'8". So that, and they both don't shoot the ball incredibly well. Like Cade Cunningham, my first thought isn't, wow, he's a great shooter. So I don't know what the hell the 6 years is about. Like 4, I would understand because it's like, hey, you're gonna come in, you're gonna develop our guys for 4 years, and then see ya. And maybe if we like what you did, maybe you made a run into the second round of the playoffs. We'll bring you back. But 6, I feel like the years on these contracts, I feel like are weird. Like I don't think there's a chance in hell Nurse makes it in Philly for 5 years.
No.
5 years.
He's going
Once
out.
Embiid's out of there, Nurse will be gone. Maxey will be gone. Hard reset. They'll bring back Sam Hinkie to get 38 first-round picks, and they'll start the process all
Trust
over
the
again.
process. It all comes around.
The process of not winning a championship.
Or maybe like once OKC has built their dynasty with their 38 picks, Presti will leave once the dynasty's over, and he'll do the process with Philly or something. I don't know.
No, I'm good on that.
I don't know. No.
I don't want that to happen either. But
He can stay
Yeah,
right where he is.
We'll give up all our first round picks and Shea for Joel Embiid. Perfect. That's what we need.
No.
Run
do you
Giddy
think,
at the one.
okay, here. If Embiid gets shipped, who is it to? Like, I think like you look at the numbers and it's like, damn. I'm sorry to reiterate the Embiid stuff, but you look at the numbers, you're like, man, he's an offensive menace. But then I watch him play, like especially in the playoffs, and he doesn't fit any flow of any offense. So it's like, what team would go get him?
Detroit's pretty bad at making basketball decisions. I can see that. Just ship him Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Killian Hayes, 3 first-rounders. Hey, guys, we got Embiid now. Motortown. Let's ride.
Like, Miami?
Ship him to Minnesota. They have all the centers already.
Run a Gobert, Anthony Towns, Embiid trio. You get rid of Anthony Edwards, screw it.
That's a big 3 right there.
Who needs guards? And you can just run a lineup of a bunch of 7. And then they go trade for Poku to run the 2. And Cade Cunningham to run the 1. And
boom.
Or Ben Simmons.
Or Ben Simmons to run the 1. Just have the 4 worst contracts in the league on your roster. Sounds like fun right there. I just look at Embiid like Portland?
I was thinking Portland or Orlando.
Orlando. Yeah, but then Philly would probably ask for Paolo in that trade. Orlando would never do that.
I think Portland's the most realistic.
I think Portland's the most realistic for a lot of teams because they're at such a tipping point right now where it's like, it all depends on what they do with Dame. If they ship Dame, they're in full rebuild mode. If they keep Dame, they have the 3rd overall pick this year. Like, they have to make their decision on what they're going to do with the next 5 years of their team in the next 2 months. And that's such a tough thing to do as a GM.
It'd be a Portland thing to just ride it out and pick Scoot.
Not do anything.
3 guards.
3 6-foot guards.
You think you're just going to roll with it?
One of them worked.
You think they do that?
No, but I wouldn't put it behind them.
There has to be a move, right? Unless the move is keep Dame, keep Simons, and just pray Brandon Miller falls to 3. That can't be the move either.
No.
Like, I think Charlotte takes Brandon Miller because Scoot Henderson and LaMelo, I think, would be horrific to watch.
That's the thing. Miller's not going to be on the board. Then what? You skip out on Scoot, you get Amon Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a loss.
Yeah, if you're anything outside those top 3 guys, especially when one of the 3 guys you pass on him because he doesn't fit your roster, that's an L. Like, you didn't get any value out of that pick to contribute to your team, really. You got reduced value. So yeah, maybe they do go get Jaylen Brown, or I doubt Embiid. Embiid definitely not on the table since they just brought in a new coach. That would be 3 years down the line. But yeah, like Brown, or I doubt they would trade the 3 pick for Ayton. I don't think anyone would do that.
What if they try to go get, like, I know it's another guard, but what if they go get Jalen Green? Like, the Rockets are shipping him. They're talking about it.
I just don't think Jalen Green's that guy who puts you over the edge.
That's so little defense. That's so little defense too.
But like, what are you gonna do at 3? Are you gonna panic, or are you at least gonna get a guy that can contribute?
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen it back to back, like with Simons right now, and then we saw it with McCollum. Having 2 6-foot guards, terrible for defense. You need someone in that shooting guard position who can guard, or Portland's losing every series.
Yeah, like look at Denver right now. Like Murray can at least stick a little bit of defense while doing everything he can offensively. And who's their 2 right now? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Yep.
Like he's a 6'6" 3-and-D guy. Like he's been awesome for them. And then they have Bruce Brown off the bench, who's a 6'4" guard that sticks a ton of defense and can occasionally shoot the 3. And he's a great offensive rebounder. We didn't even mention that in the finals thing. So yeah, like there's a way to build teams right now. And you have a superstar guard and hopefully a decent big man at least. Or if you have a superstar big, you have an all-star guard to go with him. And then it's just shooters and 3-and-D players all the way around them. That's how you build a team right now, which is why the 3-and-D guys are like $30 million a year for like Jeremy Grant.
And they have Jeremy Grant.
No, they don't. Free agent.
You can bring him back.
Yeah. Let's go get OG.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems kind of high for the 3rd pick a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I think, is Van Vliet a free agent this year?
Is who a free agent?
Freddie Van Vliet?
I don't think so.
No, he is. He's
is.
going to be looking to get a contract. I think he is.
So would the package be like OG? Because Toronto has guys and like a sign-in. No, they wouldn't want Van Vliet at all. It'd be like OG. It wouldn't be Barnes. Toronto. That would be Toronto's main piece, I think.
Siakam?
Have to keep.
Siakam would be. You'd have to give the 3 and Simons to get Siakam too, and probably some more picks.
Is that it? Is it the 3 and Simons for Siakam? And I don't think they get OG in that deal. I think that's a little too much.
Would you rather have Siakam or OG?
Siakam.
Siakam.
Yeah.
I think
he'd fit with Dame really nice.
Yeah.
Siakam and Gary Trent, get Gary Trent back on the roster. I like that. I like that actually for Portland. The 3 is interesting because Siakam's like 28, 29.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Then you go on pair Scotty with probably Scoot Henderson for Toronto.
Scoot Henderson, and Anthony Simons. I think that works both ways. I don't know how Portland would feel about that because I feel like they'd want a bigger star for their 3 pick. And it's like Dame's on his last years. Like, this is our last chance with Dame these next 4 years. So maybe they want to cash in a little bit harder. I feel like it's a nice match for Toronto, though, and Portland to some degree, though. That's very interesting.
And then you probably throw picks in to balance it.
Yeah.
Just like 2 second-rounders from Portland or something, and good to go. Or like Jeremy Grant on a sign and trade or something. Yeah.
If you can find a way to get OG and Siakam, though, I'd do that.
For 3 and Simons.
For 3 Simons, and you'd probably have to give up
a first and a second.
Yeah, maybe 1 first. 1 or 2.
Then Portland would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Portland would be really nice. I don't know if that would fit. Would that fit under the cap since they still have Nurkic? I know they're paying Nurkic big money, but
If not, ship him. Or
who cares? It's all theoretical.
Yeah.
we're no salary GMs, whatever the hell you want to call it. We just theorize.
Just play 2K My League.
Exactly. But
That's our GM experience.
is that all we're theorizing? Any more theorizing that we want to do?
I think good.
All right. So that's gonna be it for this podcast. I think we're gonna try and start plugging all our stuff at the very beginning just to get it over with. But go out and check us and follow us on Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast. I will be doing game reviews of every single finals game that I can watch. So please check those out over on the Instagram. I will be breaking down games 1 through 7 if necessary. So head over there and do that. I know I didn't do any of the Western or Eastern Conference finals. My bad. But we're going to be doing the finals.
You just had to
Don't
enjoy
worry
the
about it.
games.
Yeah, we're making up for it. I had to stress about Boston, and I just don't want to do that on the internet except for these podcasts. So, so go check out the Instagram there. If you want just the audio version of the podcast, Hurdle Sports on Spotify, type in the search bar. Mine and Logan's name is on that guy. And for everything Hurdle Podcast, check out the link tree in the Instagram bio. All the links are there for the video, the audio, the whole 9 yards. So I think that is going to do it for this podcast. Bailey, Logan, Avery, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. And that's the NBA playoffs. Peace, guys.